Folks, welcome to episode 7 of the Priory Podcast. My name is Dave Jackson, and welcome to my backyard. I thought I'd come out today and get a little vitamin D and introduce this next guest while kind of walking around the property and enjoying this beautiful spring day on the eve of the St. Patty's Day weekend here in Western PA in the Pittsburgh region. So on today's Priory Podcast, we're going back to 2010, the We Believe Tour, which is such a great title. This young lady was former Army. Now she's retired Air Force Technical Sergeant, 20 plus years in the service. She was a training instructor down there in Lackland. She was a logistics troop for a while, and she was a services troop for a while. So she's done a little bit of everything. Well, not quite everything, but you know what I mean. So today on the podcast, we have the absolutely charming and so well-spoken Katie Skonord here on the podcast. I had a great chat with Katie. You know, one of the great things about doing this show is you get to, obviously you get to talk back to folks you haven't talked to in a long time. You get to talk with, not talk back. And it is such a joy to talk to such talented people, and it's such a blessing. So anyways, let's get on with the podcast. Priory, episode 7, Katie Skonord. On you. Thank you, Katie, for being here on this wonderful Tuesday evening. How are you doing, dear?
I am doing quite well. How are you, Dave?
I'm good. Where are you at right now? Give me a little further.
San Antonio.
You're still in San Antonio.
I'm still here.
How's the family? How are you doing? How's the family doing?
They're doing awesome. The boys are growing like crazy, and they're real fun to watch after. And
what ages are we at now?
The oldest is 5, and
Okay.
the youngest is 17 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Time just goes
Be too fast.
Hey, and trust me, kiddo, the older you get, the more compressed time is. I have found that once I retired, time is even quicker because you don't have that time hack when you're working. There's no time hack, when's lunch hour? When's my next break? Do I have to put in for personal time? And when you're retired, there's no time hacks. So your day just goes real quick. It's the most bizarre thing. So that's enough about that. So what I want to hear is, I want to hear your story, how you got on tour, how you got selected. Give me from the time you saw your first show, or if you didn't see your first show, I want to hear the whole process of how you got on tour, how you got selected.
Oh, goodness. That's quite the story, actually.
Let's have it.
So in 1999, had already been in the Army National Guard for a little while. I've been through basic training, and I was home and starting college, and no hoopla of, being a young person at that time.
Mhm.
And my dad had said, hey, I know you like musical theater and, like all the different things with music and whatnot. And well, Thompson Blue is in town, and we should go to McCord and see the show.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
So I go with my dad and my sisters, and we get up there, and it was amazing. It was the 1999 tour, and I had this like special feeling, this aha moment. I'm like, wow, I'm in the wrong place. And it just overwhelmed me. And I was like, after the show, I went home and I logged online, at AOL, wait for the bonus to get through. I'm like, how do you get in this group? I mean, what's the deal? And it says active duty only. I said, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's not okay. I get that. So I went the next day, and or it said Air Force. I might have said Air Force only or something like that. And the next day I went to the Air Force recruiter's office. Mind you, I'm in the Army National Guard.
How long had you been at the Guard at this point in time?
About a year and a half, I think it was. So just a little bit into my enlistment. I did a 4-year enlistment, and I went in. I said, I'd like to join the Air Force. They said, really? Of course their ears are going to perk up and like, oh, this is great. I said, one problem. I'm in the Army National Guard. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, we can't help you, but the Air National Guard can. It's like, oh, well, okay, that's a bonus. So I went next door to the Air National Guard.
You go from
And
door to door? Door to
Yeah, they
door.
were almost door to door. And I went and I found out their information and got a meeting with the recruiter. And I said, well, I'd like to transfer. Is that possible? And they said, yes, actually it is. But the Army has to go ahead and release you
Hmm.
from your obligation with them. It's like, okay, cool. That's not too shabby. I think I can handle that with a commander.
And so far, it doesn't sound hard.
Doesn't sound too hard. I mean, what could possibly be weird about it?
Yeah.
And so I go in, I had a drill weekend coming up, so that was, perfect timing for all of that to come up. And I said, well, I'd like to see the first sergeant. I'd like to leave the Army National Guard. Why? I said, well, I'd like to go in the Air Force. I think I made kind of the wrong decision. And he says, well, let's talk to the commander about it. I was like, okay. So I'm not in trouble or anything. I'm like, what are they going to say?
Yeah.
He says, well, you're college educated, you're working on your degree. Well, what if we offered you a commissioning program for you to stay? I said, no, thanks.
Wow. So
I
they
like to leave.
tried to up
Yeah.
the ante to get you to stay.
They did. They said, we'd like to, offer you the opportunity to commission. I said, no. I said, I think I really need to go do this. I really need to go over to the Air Force and work that side of the house. And so they did actually release me. They said, oh, it might be a while though. Could be a little while before you get in. I'm like, all right. So they signed the paperwork to release me out of the conditions for the Army and turned it in the recruiter. And the next month I was in the Air National Guard. So
It just took a month.
a month. I don't, the powers lined up and I
Wow.
signed on and it was a month and I was already in the Air Force. Like, we'll get you some uniforms. You don't need to go through basic training because you've already been through training. You will have to go through tech school. So, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I can do that. But in the meantime, I was like, well, I can apply for Thompson Blue now because I'm in the Air Force. So I applied in 2000. I did not get selected, even for worldwide or anything. I said, oh, okay. Well, maybe I need to go active duty.
Okay.
So I went to active duty.
Hold
Yeah,
that thought. So you applied for the 2000 tour.
I did.
So you sent in a videotape. What'd you do?
Yeah, it was a videotape.
What song did you
Oh,
sing?
I didn't. I danced back then.
Oh, you danced. Oh, the
I
plot
did.
thickens. All right.
So I was friends with Tracy Bender,
Okay.
and so she hooked me up with a videotape and kind of molded me along the way in those early years while she was still in the States. So that was quite helpful. So I went ahead and I said, well, I didn't get selected. I was heartbroken. I was like, that's not cool. I know that they take reservists or National Guards. It's what Tracy told me. She says, well,
Yeah.
they might take a couple.
We
You
had a
never know.
reserve. We had a reservist on our 93 team.
Right. So
She was the first reservist. She was the
ah,
first one. Yeah.
the very first one.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's not common, but it does happen. I was like, well, maybe I can have some kind of a talent that would go forward that would show something.
Right.
And I said, well, I started taking, voice classes and dance classes to kind of get me ready for the next time that I would apply.
You
And
really put yourself into it.
oh, it gets better.
Oh, great. Okay. I'm on pins and needles already.
Oh, so I go ahead and I go back to the Air Force recruiter's office. I'd like to join the Air Force this time. And they said, well, I said, I'm in the National Guard. Like, oh, we can do that. Like, okay, cool. So I have to go back to the Air National Guard and ask for a conditional release.
So you you have a history of asking people, I need to leave. I need to
I
go
mean,
home now.
it's like when you know in your heart you're in the wrong spot
Oh
and
yeah, you
you
knew.
you're
You
trying
knew.
to get where you need to go, but it's like it's like so many steps to get there. There would be no way possible you could do this now.
Right.
It's not even possible. So the stars were aligning or whatever was going on at the time. And so the Air Force was like, fine, that's great. We'll get you all set up. And I got released out of the Air National Guard and they said, good luck to you. They said, we hope you get it. Because I told them why I was doing it. And they said, I think that's great. And I think you do well. And I was already working on McCord quite a bit, doing a lot of orders for the reserves. And so they're like, why don't you just stay anyway and just be here full time? So it made the right decision for me.
Wow.
Um, timing was odd though. So I went ahead, went down to MEPS on September 10th, 2001 to
Yeah.
sign in on September 11th, 2001.
No way.
Yes.
Wow.
So I swore in on September 11th for active duty.
Wow.
And when everything was going down and
Yeah.
it was surreal to be there because you're looking at being in a room full of people that are getting ready to start their lives and then watching everything come crashing down on the television
Yeah, no kidding.
in maps. And then you see all the recruiters scatter and you're like, I don't know what's going on
Yeah.
at this point. I don't know what's going on with my enlistment. I just, enlisted again. They came back and they said, well, we don't know what's going on yet, but everybody go back to the hotel. I said, well, I live an hour away. Can I just go home? And they said, oh, yeah, you can go home, but we'll call you when you need to come back to finish your paperwork. It's like, all right, I can do that. So I drove back down the corridor back to my home in Olympia, and it was dead quiet. Never seen the freeway empty.
Hmm.
So it was odd for me to feel that impact already because no one knew what was going to happen. And my dad was in the Air Force at the time too.
Hmm.
And I knew that what that meant for him was he's leaving.
Yeah.
So I went home, helped my mom pack his bags because he was leaving the next day. And she said, are you still going to go in? I said, absolutely. And she was
Right.
like, you sure? And I said, I have to do this. I have to go. Now it's even more important for me to go and serve my country because of
Yeah.
all these things that are going on.
Right.
And so I got called to go back 4 days later, and I moved on to McCord Air Force Base by myself in FPCon Delta,
Hmm.
which was quite the fun to have your car searched every time you went on base. And I started working from there. So I did apply again in 2002. I got selected at, sorry, I have cats. They're kind of fun.
What's your cat's name? What's your kitty's
Oh,
name?
that's Gracie. I have four of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're fun.
We have two. We have two. So yeah.
Yeah, they keep it lively around here.
Yeah.
They're cozy. But I had applied, I had stayed in contact with Tracy Bender, I had been doing a lot of things on the base, doing a lot of volunteer work. We were in a group called the Voices of McCord, so I was singing everywhere that we could sing, retirements, sporting games, and whatnot. So that was kind of great to get that
So you
little
were
bit extra
honing you were honing your chops early.
early because I was
Yeah.
like, well, I did, I sang at church and stuff, but it wasn't enough. I knew that it wasn't going to be enough. And I needed to do more. She said, because I was mentored early on to say, the more you can do, the better. Don't be multi-purpose. Don't just be
Yeah.
one thing and not be able to do other things too.
Right.
Um, so I was like, this is great. So I applied in 2002 for the 2003 tour. And then I got deployed
Of
to the Middle
course.
East.
Of course.
And yeah, so I didn't get to go. And I got word when I was deployed. They said, oh, you got selected to go to Worldwide, but we told them you couldn't go because you're deployed. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
So they told them before they even consulted you?
Yeah, they said, well, we can't really let you go. You
Yeah.
can't send you out of the OR.
Right.
We're in the middle of a war, it's just not possible. I'm like, I understand. I said, well, I can always try again next year.
Yeah.
So made
So
it through yeah, I made it through my deployment and I came back and it's like, all right, let's hit the ground running. Back to Voices McCord, took more dance classes, went back to school, took some music theory, um, applied for the 2004 tour, got to Worldwide this time.
mhm.
So that was my first Worldwide was
Okay.
2004. And I thought it went okay. I learned quite a lot. I met a lot of really wonderful people, made great friends with the 2004 tour, and danced for that one. A little sailor. It was
Okay.
quite the cute get up. But I didn't get selected. And I was kind of really bummed at that point because I'm like, I made it that far. And it was a big worldwide. I think I had 150 contestants or something like that. It was way back when they were still quite large. And I was like, well, what did I do wrong? I got to find out what I did. So, of course, I went and I shook Chief's hand, to thank you for the opportunity to come down and talk to my mentors that I had at that time because I had Libby Castle and a couple others, Percy Lewis. And I said, I just need to know what I need to do next time.
Yeah.
And so they were really honest with me. They said, well, you probably needed to add more to your talent, sing some more and dance some more and whatnot. So I was like, all right, I can do that. So I came back the following year, applied, made it to Worldwide 2005. So in the meantime, I actually did staging for the 2004 tour and got to see what they do for staging got
Mhm.
to see what they require physically and mentally
You were on staff.
on staff
Okay.
for
Yeah.
2004.
Yeah.
And it's like I skipped ahead, but yeah, I was on, they actually had me come down and be on staff. So I thought that was great. To actually get to see that process to see if that's really what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And um, it only solidified it further because I think once you get immersed into it and you start to understand the processes that fall behind it, then you get to love it even more.
So it
Because
didn't,
there's,
seeing what happens in the staging didn't scare you off any. You were even more focused.
I was like, I still have to do this. Like in my heart, I'm like, I still have to, this is not, it's not impossible. It's difficult.
Mhm.
I mean, you have to live with 32 other people and maintain relationships and professionalism and your talent and not get injured, along the way. And,
Yeah.
the naysayers that are going to come across you and how to deal with those. And so I learned a lot and I was really grateful for that experience. And so I took that running when I got home. Like, I have to go back. So when I applied for 2005, I'm like, well, I'm going to sing this time. So that was or no, I actually danced that time. I did, but I did do more singing that time. So I danced again, but I didn't make it. So it's like, all right, it's the end of my enlistment for the Air Force, and decided not to re-enlist, but I went in the Air Force Reserve
Okay.
um, because I knew I could still apply as a reservist, and I went back to school. And so I decided to go to a university in Oregon. So I went to Oregon State University, go Beefs, not the Ducks. And I was going to go to school, become a teacher. And I was like, oh, maybe I should go back to teaching and go that route and get a different kind of a career mindset. And so I was doing early childhood education. I picked up the choir class, got in the choir, and I'm singing along. I'm like, I am in the wrong place. I said, can I change majors? And they said,
Ah,
yes, you can. And I said, I'd like to be a music major.
wow.
So I became a music major. And so that jumped me in like the first 2 weeks of college, and I started my music program there. And because I had already had an associate's degree that I already picked through the Air Force, I already had was degreed. I only had to do music classes. So it was
Oh,
like a full on like a conservatory feel for me because it was just immersed in music
just
the
straight
whole time.
music. Just classes of
Straight
straight music.
music, three
Wow.
years, full
Wow.
music. So
That would be for a lot of folks, that would be a dream come true.
it
Not having
was
to worry about all
awesome.
the crap classes and just focus on that skill. Wow.
People were jealous. They were so jealous. Like, you don't have to take, no, I already got all that stuff done. I don't do any of that stuff. So I had piano classes and I had to teach band and I was a conductor for, I was a choral conducting major. And so I was teaching choir and who knew by then, that was already 6 years later, I was starting to teach choir and little kids and
Katie, that's amazing. You went from what? So we're talking in how many years between I know I can dance, I can kind of sing to to running a choir or running an what? How that's
7 years, I think.
crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I did.
Really
I worked
impressive.
really, it was hard. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I went to school as an older student, and there were kids running. Well, I call them kids because they were like 18. They would have been my little sister, but they were amazing too. And just trying to keep up with them and try to compete with them for what you needed to get into, and because the spots were highly competitive for the different choirs, and you had obviously things that you had to do in order to graduate. So you had a lot of music practice that you had to take care of. So I did a lot of vocalizing. I sang every day. I had to sing every day. I had private voice lessons. I had choir every day. I was in three choirs at one point. So it's just what it was. And I loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
I worked 4 jobs to put myself through school, still drove 3 hours one way to go back to the reserve every month just to meet that commitment. And so didn't apply those years.
That
Um,
was I was gonna ask that. Did you still have that dream in the back of your head and but you
oh,
didn't
yeah,
apply? Okay.
that wasn't going to go away. And I said, I need to go to school and I need to figure out what I'm doing and I need to have a way forward after I'm finished. If I'm able to make it on tour. And I said, I can't interrupt my education at this point to go on tour because it would be difficult to come back into it
Yeah, yeah.
where I'm at. And so along the way, my unit was amazing. I was still singing on the base and stuff like that when I come back for reserve duty, and staying on top of volunteering and doing stuff in the community. And they allowed me not to deploy during that time period while I was in school, which is awesome. Because I wanted to I don't mind deploying. That was,
Mhm.
quite an experience, and it really shows you what you're really worth to the world by what you're able to give back. And so when I graduated, I told that's the other cat. When I graduated, I said, well, I'll deploy now because you've always deployed for me. And so I said, send me on your next deployment. So I applied in 2008 after I graduated, and I did go to Worldwide in 2008, but this time I sang
This is your third worldwide.
third Worldwide
Wow.
in
Okay.
2008. Yeah. So I sang, did not make it, but it still a great experience. But I'm moving my skills forward, and I got a lot farther than I thought.
Mhm.
As far as what I was capable of, because then I was an instrumental audition, like, yeah, I can play that, you know, or I can kind of play that. I can read this now.
Yeah.
I had 4 years of theory. I'm doing not too bad right now.
Yeah.
Uh, so I didn't make
You're checking
2008.
all the boxes. You're
I was trying to
well,
hit everything, and I have all my old applications, and they're like this thick. By the time
the only thing we're lacking here is you do magic tricks. I mean,
I couldn't juggle. That was the only thing I couldn't do. I know. Improv, no problem.
yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't juggle. I can be
Wow.
funny sometimes, but
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so I went ahead and I didn't make it, but I'm like, it's okay. I will apply again next year. Like, you just keep trying. I said, I do.
Mhm.
I just have to keep trying.
Yeah.
And I was still working working through the university too, and I was going to go in the master's program there while I waited. Why not? So I'm working on my master's level classes, and I was talking to the music department about it. I'm like, I got to do this tour. I think it'll be awesome. And they said, we'll support you for that. And so they helped me do my audition tape for the
Ah,
2009 Worldwide.
yeah.
Like, this is great. So I'm going to put this in. And so I put it in as Mary Poppins. Yeah, Mary Poppins. And so I sent it in, and then I deployed again. So
No.
it was okay though.
Okay.
So they deployed me stateside, and my unit was super, they were really proud of the opportunity.
Mhm.
They said, we're going to let you leave your deployment to go to Worldwide, but you got to come back.
Yeah. Well,
I said, of course,
fair deal.
it's a wonderful deal for that. And I couldn't believe it. And I actually came down with Michelle Eddy. And so we flew down together to Worldwide. And I just felt like that was such a great experience, that whole series of events. And
Mhm.
I have got to make it. Like, I keep trying. Everybody's like, you've got to make it. I'm like, you just keep coming back. I'm like, I'm gonna keep coming back. It's just gonna happen. You're just gonna have to get sick of seeing me until it happens. Until you
Just
say
let it,
no.
just sign her up. Just come on, just sign her up.
That's how I felt. I was like, I just got to keep trying until they tell me don't try anymore. You got to tell me not to try anymore because I'm just gonna keep trying. And I tried to check all the boxes throughout the way, and I had a really good interview with Mr. Edwards and the team, and I was feeling really good about it, and I had my rehearsal went well. Your live performance, I get out there because Barry Best had to have his hand in it because he gives you a call beforehand. He says, I'm gonna beef up your music for you, get it all set. You have this swanky red coat that you're gonna wear. Oh yeah, the red coat's fantastic. Miss Sarah brought out a big umbrella that could take me away. She's you can use that on the stage. And he says, can you wear something underneath the dress or the jacket and take it off? I said, yeah, I can do that. I can work that in there and make it a little bit jazzier.
Yeah.
And so in the performance, for the live performance, I go to take my red jacket off, and there goes the microphone pack. And instinctively, I reached behind and I was able to grab it without missing anything, and I just kept going.
Oh,
And
nice.
it was like an instinct just to do
Yeah.
it. I wasn't like I fumbled or
Yeah.
anything like that. And I was like, oh, that went well. And I'm holding my mic pack, but thank you.
Yeah.
Um, and then I went home and I was like, well, I hope that went well. we'll see what happens. And so I go home, waiting and waiting for a phone call. People are getting phone calls.
Right.
And then we had the situation where they wanted to shut the program down. I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Mhm.
I'm going to get all the way to this point and they're going to shut this program down, which has been around since the existence of the Air Force nearly.
Yeah.
You're shutting down a heritage program. What are you thinking? I said, you can't do that. You know, there may be people out there that think it's irrelevant because they don't understand it.
Mhm.
But there's things out there I think are irrelevant, but I don't understand those either. But it
Right.
doesn't make it wrong. And so I started writing letters to be included to go forward. And I said, we have to keep this
Well, you
program.
write letters too.
I can't, there was some way that they did it where they asked everybody to write a letter on why, how it impacted the Air Force.
Mhm.
Or I remember there had to be like a book they had to go forward, or it was an email that went out or something. They had sent it to everybody. And so I wrote a long letter about why I applied for it, what it meant to me, what it does for everybody else. And I sent it forward. Didn't know what was going to happen with it, but you know, I have to do my part.
Right.
And and then I sat and waited and I cried a lot, to be honest, because I'm like, you, this opportunity is gonna be gone and it's gonna be gone for everybody, not just myself. I don't want to be selfish, but yeah, I really want it, but I want it for everybody too. And so I'm sitting there waiting and waiting, hoping to hear that it's gonna be okay. And I'm driving along after school the one day, heading to work, and I get a phone call from my commander because I'm not in the same state as her. And she says, "What you doing?" I said, "I'm not doing anything at the moment. Let me pull over." So I pulled over, hands free, no, at the time, trying to be safe. And she goes, "I wanted to let you know that you were selected for Tops on Blue."
Mm. You got told in the car.
I did get told in the car. She's, I wanted to tell you, I talked to the group commander because he wanted to call you before I called you. I was like, I said, you're not kidding? Because I've never heard those words.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I really got selected. And she says, yes, she got selected. It's like, wow, what do I do now? You know, and she says, we'll get you the information and then they'll be calling you this week and getting you on board with what you need to go for staging and but we'll see you at the drill weekend.
Yeah.
So when I came up for drill weekend, they had reporters there
Oh wow.
from the base paper wanted to interview me about how I got there to go forward to Tops and Blue. And then they had somebody from the local news came through just to interview me. So of course PA wanted to talk to me too.
Yeah.
Make sure I didn't say anything crazy.
Right. You had to
And
get you had to get pre-briefed.
I
Yeah.
do, and you're like, I'm not going to say anything weird, I promise
Yeah. Yeah.
you. So, um, said I won't say anything weird. And then when I got back to school, they said we want to interview for the university website because I knew the marketing lady. She said we got to put this on the school website that you did this because it's pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
And so that was like the first real weekend, and then after that, it was here comes staging. So that's how I got there.
So three worldwides. You
Four
were
worldwide.
an admin at a staging. What year was it? What year were you there for staging to help out?
I did four worldwide. So I did
Four
two,
worldwide. Oh yeah.
4, 5, 8, and 9.
4, 5, 8, and 9. Wow.
And I applied 6 times over a course of 10 years.
I admire the tenacity. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, of all those worldwides, I mean, obviously the first one is the most overwhelming thing. And once you go to them subsequently after that, did it seem easier? Did the worldwide seem easier to you as you kept going to them?
Mhm. I think that I knew what I was getting into.
Mhm.
Like I knew kind of what to expect next, but it didn't make it necessarily easier
All right.
because I knew where I was deficient.
Mhm.
So I was hoping I was going to do okay in the audition.
Right.
And then you're also advancing yourself in your career. So you're also dealing with other people and hoping that you're dealing with the airmen appropriately,
Right. Right.
younger than you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I mean, there's all and from a guy that I saw my first show in '83. It took me all that time from '83 to finally get to worldwide in '91. Now there was a 4 year, well, it was a 3 year stint that I didn't apply because I was just bummed. But The folks that just keep sticking it out, man, it's just so impressive. You always, people always talk about how did you make it through the first time? Because there's a lot of people just, go right through the system right off the bat. But the folks that, just keep plugging at it and keep plugging at it, I love those stories. Absolutely love those stories. Wow. Wow. So now you're on the We Believe tour. Let's start with staging. How was staging for you for that year?
I loved it. That was like
Really?
I loved staging.
Okay. Tell
I
me
just
why.
felt like, huh?
Tell me why.
Well, it's fun because you got to meet everybody that made it.
Uh-huh.
You had communicated with some people along the way that were on your team,
Right.
and because they were like, "Hey, I made it! I made it! Did you hear anything? Yeah, yeah, I did. I'll see you in a few weeks." Um, and so you get there, and you're like, "Oh!" The first day you get there, you don't see anybody. They just
Right.
drop you off at lodging. You're like,
Yep.
"Okay." They're like, "We'll pick you up in the morning." Like, cool. I'm gonna go find something to eat. So I
Right.
ran into one of my tour mates, Lisa, on the way to the shopette to get food, and I said, "I guess I'll see you in the morning." She says, "Okay, I'll see you in the morning." And so we get there and we have the big meeting. Tells you about how Tops and Blue is,
Yep.
where you are in the team, where you fall with your jobs, what your expectations were, and that's the day that you can leave now if you don't think it's for you without any repercussions.
Mhm.
I'm like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah. Rock and
And
roll. Wow.
let's rock and roll. So the 2009 tour was just finishing up. So we went and worked in the old production center way back when. And we're putting away things and kind of learned some of the equipment at that time and wrapped cords and got to know each other. And then we finally got to do staging for us once other stuff was back. And they jumped us in pretty quick. We started singing in, the little room that has the washer and the dryer in it.
Yep.
Miss
Yep.
Tracy kind of kept us on track.
Yep.
Um, Mr. Jones and Miss Tracy and Miss Sarah were in there quite a bit to keep us going, and they kept breaking us up. I loved shedding. That was fun. Trying to figure out how to learn something as quick as you could. And then the dance floor, that's my thing.
Right.
Dance floor was awesome. I was all over that. And then Mr. Jones's worthy, very worthy workout sessions in the morning.
Hmm.
They will kick your butt. But they got you in shape.
Now,
They were,
did they do the work historically? Well, I shouldn't say historically. What I know is that as staging progresses, the morning workouts kind of go to the side a little bit because
yeah,
you're get building the show starts to kick in. They're starting to meld the band with the vocalists, and the show's getting ready to build. So I remember I don't even think it was halfway through staging. It was like, no, we're not. No, we're not. Now we're out. We just go walk in straight to the stage.
I don't think we didn't have that till way later. But we'd still work out something just to get us ready to go for it because it was a high impact show, so they didn't want anybody to injure themselves. And
Yeah.
um, but it was hard because we had that little dance floor in the front of the building, and there was a day that we had no air conditioning. And the walls were sweating. The mirrors were sweating. I
Mhm.
can't make this stuff up. I wish I would have had a camera in there because we couldn't have cameras in there.
Well, the humidity was
But
crazy.
it was terrible. But we ran through that building and we're doing our thing. And it was a day that we were working on some heavy stuff and we made it. And then we get, piling Mr. Jones' office and he's like, all right, you're gonna do it again. Go. And you're like, oh, not again. Didn't we get it right the last four times?
Yeah. Well, you might
So
have, but you're gonna go do it again anyways.
gonna do it again anyway. You just get used to it. And then, so we ran through there and got to hear the band, but never got to see them because they'd always close the doors and,
Yep.
don't gotta
Yep.
separate them. Don't want to
Yep.
see what they're doing. Um, so that was kind of neat to see how the processes started to work. Because I remembered a bit of that from 2004. That was what was exciting. I'm like, oh, good. Because I actually taught physical fitness for the 2004 team. I would do their workouts for
Oh,
them. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I
yeah,
did that.
that's an important nugget.
I was a
You're
per
the fitness guru from
I
2000.
was. I was a personal trainer for the Air Force, so they had me do the PT in the morning.
That's
So they called me
awesome.
the Dragon Lady on that tour. Because yeah, you ask them, they called me the Dragon Lady. And
Good
I
lady.
whooped them. Yeah.
Oh man. Wow. Should have made
But
a
I
shirt.
would,
Should have made a shirt.
I know I should have made a shirt. What was I thinking? But so we just got that the whole staging thing finally rolling. Everything is moving and we're starting to sound good and it's getting harder and they're starting to have us go in the middle of the night,
Yeah,
go
yeah,
home, get a couple hours of sleep, wake up and go back again.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
don't know when they're gonna call you back and don't ever sit on your bed because you're probably gonna fall on it and fall asleep. You just walk in your room, grab what you need and get out.
yeah.
So you gotta learn. Don't sit
True.
down. You're gonna feel it. You just keep your body moving all the time.
Yeah.
Eat healthy, the whole 9 yards to keep you fueled. Um, but it was fun to see which parts went to different people and how that things were cut and pasted and here, let's up tempo this, up tempo that. Let's put the band here and there with
Let's
vocal.
medley all this.
Yeah.
The medley these 10 songs.
And you're like, oh, we love that song. We're cutting it.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
you learn quickly that from the band perspective, we learn very quickly. You learn the chorus, you know, you learn the sequence for the verse, the tag, and then that's it. But there was,
yeah.
obviously there was some songs you had to learn all the way through, but you knew that was going to be the patriotic set.
Yes.
You were going to do full songs. Probably the jazz set. You were going to do full songs. But the country and the pop stuff, it didn't take long before we were like, okay, just learn the chorus and the verse in the end, and just learn, don't do the whole song. Just figure out the chunks that you need that you know he's going to request.
Right, absolutely. So you're looking at trying to memorize. I mean, I have my book. It's like this, it's this thick, full of songs that some of we didn't even touch or they gave it to us. We're like, we're singing once, we're not gonna use it.
Yeah,
Like, oh, that was gonna be cool. We didn't
yeah.
really have a country set. We had a country song in there, but we didn't have a country set.
No dedicated
Uh,
country set. Yeah, okay.
mm-mm.
Hmm.
No, we had a couple songs that they were just cut. We just kept one of them.
So
So,
what was the theme once you guys got it all? Once you're on the road, what was the theme of that tour? What was the theme of the show?
so that part's funny too because they started with the We Believe part. The song came out of the Olympics. I think it was the Winter Olympics. And so we started that show and then it would go through a whole bunch of love songs and whatnot through there. And then it melded into um what came out? A little bit of country.
Okay,
And then it broke into like a future like nowadays stuff.
okay.
And then it went to Lady Gaga.
Mhm.
And then it went to patriotic. So it kind of went all the way through the what was
Well, was
almost
the theme so the we believe part? So what's the we believe? What's the what's the how does that title relate to the show?
like everything had a way it fit into We Believe. So you talk about We Believe in, the patriotism part. So you have your patriotic set. We
Right.
believe in the power of family. So we had some
Okay,
stuff that
there we
was,
go. Okay, that's what I was looking for.
yeah,
Okay,
so they kind of get that stuff in there. Um, but they fit it in. So it's kind of how they worked it all the
right.
way through. But the Lady Gaga said that was interesting how that came about because they brought the music out to us and they said, we're gonna start singing this stuff. And we're like, all right, that's cool. I didn't know much about Lady Gaga other than she was
Mm,
really different at the time. She was into
yeah,
her different stage.
yeah.
And so we were learning songs back and forth, and then we start seeing like these bags show up at the production center, and they were very big bags and they said, "Don't touch those." We're like, "How about a little kid?" Sometimes we didn't look, we didn't peek,
Yeah.
and so they said we're going to start picking our gagas, who's going to be in these sets, and so they pulled one person aside and said, "You're going to be one of the Lady Gagas." We had several of them, and then they pulled me aside and said, "Guess what? You're wearing bubbles." Like, what do you mean I'm wearing bubbles? Says you're gonna be Lady Gaga. I'm like, are you serious? So they pulled out this massive costume that was quite heavy and said you're wearing bubbles for the tour.
Wow.
So that's how I ended up getting bubbles um, for the Lady Gaga
So, but it was for one song though, right? Was it for
for one song,
huh? Just the one?
one song,
Okay.
just
Just
one.
one costume
Made an
changing the
appearance
bubbles and out.
and out. Yep.
Where's
So,
that picture? How come I
but
didn't
that
get
was
that picture? Why did you send me that
you
picture?
didn't. I did send that picture to
That
you.
picture, did I get that one? Okay, I'll look. I'll look. I don't remember that. I
Oh
remember the
yes,
red. Remember the red. I'll have to look again.
it's in
All
there.
right. All right. Good. 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 I want that picture. Good.
Yeah, because they would call you Bubbles on tour, and
He did. He did
oh
or they did?
yes,
Okay.
they did.
Okay.
And Mr. Edwards had, a running joke because he'd bring me my balls that fell off the bubble suit at the end of the night. He's like, "Here you go." And the audience would do the same thing. They'd be like, "Here you go." I'm like standing in my mess dress. I'm like, "What do I do with it?" I shove it up my back, in the back of my mess dress, a little puff ball in the back, like, "Hi,"
Ah,
like I can't hold it and shake hands. Like, what do I do with it?
that was an outfit that required a lot of maintenance.
It did. The first one didn't make it very long on the tour, so they gave me a second one. And I actually own the second one. So
You have it.
I have it.
Wow.
I took it home. Yeah.
That's a nice
So
little artifact.
a little bit. Yeah, I figured one day I'll rock it again. If not, it's gonna go in a really cool museum.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
I didn't
cool.
want to get rid of any of that stuff.
Yeah. The only thing I've got a few things. I got a few jackets and whatnot, but I really wish I'd kept all my music from staging. I didn't. Once we got on the road, I just I put that
Hmm.
stuff aside. I just didn't go back to it because I was just so wrapped up musically in my head. I didn't want to see. I didn't want to be distracted by. I just got rid of it. I don't know what point, but I remember just moving all the charts away. So,
Yeah.
so describe the set that you guys had that you guys worked with and the
So
best
the
pair up.
set was cool. The set was really cool. When we finally got to see it, we're like, wow, this is what y'all been working on over there. But it had a black backdrop. They had a LED curtain behind it that would come down later that would have the Air Force emblem on it. And then it had these things, we called them noodles, but they had these long tubes that looked like a big spiral noodle that
Okay.
lit up. And those were on the stage for part of our set. And the stage moved. So it was two pieces and it came together in the center and then it would move out and in.
Okay.
So it was kind of neat. So they had the band that was on the back row and they would come down to play down front sometimes, depending what they were doing. But the drums were stationary, the horns were in the back, and then we just ran the front and then on and off the stage as needed. But it had large circles on it. You can come running up and down up the circles. You had to stand in the middle sometimes, which could feel wonky if they didn't lock the stage in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you had to learn to ride the stage when they opened the stage
Mhm.
because they would open it during certain songs. Uh,
Was the stage open by motor or was it manually pushed or shoved?
Manually pushed.
Okay.
So the people that came off the stage would be under the stage and they'd be pushing the stage open
Yeah.
from
Wow.
what they were telling me. Because they have video of them doing that, but I was on it. So I never got to do it.
Never got to see it.
Yeah.
Was it a tough set to maintain over the tour?
No, not at all. In the beginning, it took us a while to
Oh,
set it up.
that's a blessing, kiddo.
We got lucky compared to some of the sets that I went to help volunteer to put up and take down. Because I did that every time the tour came through.
Right.
But I did it every year. But they gifted us, some great things with that because it was easy to put together, everything locked in. The backdrop was easy. Audio was great because I worked audio crew. Had to run Big Bertha up and down the main wherever she needed to go. And the dance floor was pretty easy. So it went from like a 4 hour setup to we would get it up in like 45 minutes.
Shut up. A 45-minute setup? You're
I think
kidding.
it was like 45 or 46 minutes we had it set up.
All the way set up. Audio,
All the way set up.
staging, the whole nine yards.
Yes.
That's crazy.
We worked hard. We had a system where you'd grab your microphone. I was in charge of the batteries, made sure everybody was set up. And as you were working, when it got close, we all grabbed our microphones and we did sound check from wherever we were in the building.
Yeah.
So we're like, let's go, let's figure it out. We'd run up and do our song, run back, put it back in your pocket, and go back to work. And we just never stopped. There was no downtime. We're like, well, as soon as we can get it up, we can have some downtime before the show starts.
Yeah.
So
That's
we just
that's everybody's dream. Get it up, sound
yeah,
check, go rest.
go rest a few minutes, actually have time to get some stuff done. Take care of anything with the instruments because sometimes those would need maintenance and whatnot.
Mhm.
Uh, but we just learned not to lollygag about it. We're like, no, we got to work, get it up, and get it down.
It's because you guys obviously cherished your free time. You
We
knew if you
did.
got it done, you could go chill. You go relax, get back to the room, and crash.
We played hard. We did. So wherever we were at, if we could go get something done, we did it. We got laundry done in the middle of the night, like, all right, laundries are open, we'd go do that or go get a massage or be in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere, United States, and like, let's all go get dinner together, um, spend some quality time and just be away from the set and do those things. So
You guys were a pretty tight knit group.
yeah.
Nice, nice. Wasn't any like band vocalist thing. It was just
No, everybody pretty much hung out with everybody. There was no split.
that's nice. No, no,
Um,
no little clicks.
Well, yeah, you kind of navigate yourself and
Yeah,
into different, based on, other things that you like in life.
yeah,
But for the most part, we could still come together and eat.
yeah.
That was never, but if we're gonna go out for the evening, we're like, hey, who wants to go out? We're gonna go here, go there. You might be in smaller groups of 6 or 8
Right.
and go out and do something together. But you meet up other people because you're all going to the same place eventually. You run into each other somewhere and you're like, hey, I'll catch up with you later. But you try to vary who you hang out with a little bit, as much as possible. But it's kind of hard when you go on the tour and you're a tech sergeant and everybody's an airman first class. So there is that separation there. You have to kind of really be mindful.
Were you the ranking person on tour that year?
No, I was number 4. So
Number
Mr.
four.
Edwards is number 1. So I
Right.
was number 4.
Yeah.
So I was right after the first sergeant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, I mean, as far as actual rank, was you were a tech sergeant on tour? Was there any military rank higher than you on tour?
there was a master sergeant and then a lieutenant.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on 93. I was a tech sergeant and I was the ranking man on tour. That was which was bizarre,
I bet.
but it worked out. So it worked out. What was the what I'm not I haven't asked this enough. I'm gonna start incorporating this in these podcasts. What do you think was one of the and I know this is kind of it's gonna be different from everybody, but what do you think was the craziest show experience that you've had? Either not necessarily like an accident or anything like that, but just the most craziest show experience you ever had, whether it was audience related to you guys or a venue
Oh,
that was just nutty. What was it? Give me one of your crazy ones.
one of our weirdest shows that we had was in Greenland. They
Oh,
flew
okay.
they flew us to Thule and I don't know what happened on the installation, but they said, you're required to go to the show.
Oh,
Yeah, so they made everybody go that was there, but pretty much don't enjoy it. That's what we heard. That's what we heard. It was they
so it
told
was
them
a
not to.
mandatory audience, and you
Yes.
go to the grapevine, don't enjoy it.
Yeah, pretty much don't enjoy it. They're making you go. Your commanders are making you go. So you're being voluntold that you have to be in seats for the show for these people that are coming in.
Wow.
And so we were told like, hey, it might be a tough crowd, just do your best.
Mm,
Do a great show. That's all you can hope for.
yeah.
And so they had it in a warm hangar. So it wasn't like we were going to be outside freezing in the dark, so we didn't have to worry about that. But we set it up pretty quick and we were ready to go. And we're like, all right, let's give them everything we had. And we worked hard, but there was no clapping. They just stared at you. And it was the weirdest feeling for an hour and some change. And then
Did they
the
have a
commander,
banquet? Did they have a banquet for you guys after that?
um, I don't remember. I know we went out after that because there was nothing else to do on the installation. We went out, but I know they took us on a tour of the installation and things like that. But I don't remember if we had a banquet or not. But it just was weird.
That's
Um,
very weird.
we didn't
I've
feel
never
right
heard
about
that
that.
happen before.
Yeah, we just felt weird. It's like that was the weirdest event, and they felt bad. We had that show, and then we went when we were in the desert for one of our trips to the desert. We drove out to Kuwait. We were in Kuwait at Ali Al Salim, and they wanted us to go forward to go to a small show out in another outpost. And we drove all the way out there to do the show, and they never brought the generator for us.
Oh, so
So we sat there like all morning, and they ended up having to cancel it because they weren't going to have power for our show.
So nobody came up with a, we'll do an acoustic version, or we'll do some sort of modified version of the show. Nothing.
No, we couldn't, we didn't have any power. We had nothing.
Yeah.
So that was odd.
Was that the only show that got canceled on your tour?
Yes, that was the only one. 'Cause it was like a kind of a mini setup there. Um,
That's a bit of a
yeah.
bummer.
Yeah, I mean we had mortar attacks in Iraq, and that was exciting because you always hear.
Where in Iraq did you guys do the show?
So we were in we went to Baghdad, Mosul, to Crete, that might in one outpost that we did.
Think about this. How many people can say they toured Iraq in a entertainment group specifically dedicated to the airmen and soldiers that are deployed, but you toured through Iraq?
Mhm.
Just that statement itself gives me chills. That's amazing.
It was eerie.
Where in Baghdad did you guys play?
We're in Baghdad.
Baghdad, yeah.
Um, was it Camp Victory?
Okay, so it was on an installation. It wasn't
Yeah,
like
it was on installation.
one of the palaces or anything like that.
It was right outside a bombed out palace.
Oh,
Yep.
you guys get to do any touring during all that stuff? You guys go out and see the area after the show or before the show? Or did you guys?
No, they let us see the palace and kind of gave us a private tour of it,
Yeah,
because there were some things that were in there that the public doesn't see.
yeah,
And but that was weird to see that.
yeah. No kidding.
And because that you're in a building where this dictator had built this for his sister with all the hate in the world for America.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're gonna do a
That's
show right in front
surreal.
of and you're gonna do a show right in front of it. Thing about America,
That's
on the 3rd of July, mind you.
yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah. Wow.
yeah, on the 3rd of July.
Wow.
So we were in the Middle East for 4th of July. And so we had that. That was fun.
How
The crowd was great.
did the troops in Iraq were they just over the moon seeing you guys there?
Oh, the ones deployed, they were really thankful that we were there
Oh
for
yeah.
the most part. Except
Yeah.
for the ones in Al Udeid were a little bit different. That's a different setup. That's an R&R, scenario. But the ones that were more forward than that were very much appreciative to everything that we were bringing out there because they have nothing
There's nothing.
and
Yeah.
nothing. So they enjoyed the music. We, brought everything that we had, condensed, of course, for the desert. But enjoyed just that minute that they didn't have to worry about something.
Right.
And that was exciting. And then going out to Crete and performing next to the stadium where the same dictator had annihilated a whole soccer team, because they didn't win. I was standing in places that historically had significant things that happened.
Yeah.
I would never have had the opportunity 10 years prior,
Yeah.
ever have stepped foot in Iraq unless I was deployed.
You never thought in a million years in 2000
No,
anything or 1990 anything that you would be
no,
in that situation. It's just astounding.
absolutely not.
That's astounding.
Absolutely not. And then you in the same week you're going to a forward operating base that has no name because they won't tell you.
Mhm.
And you find out that they lost people that day before.
Yeah.
And you're there to make them feel better, for just a minute to help
Yeah.
bring their thoughts away from that. It's mind-boggling,
Yeah.
the stuff that we got to go do.
Yeah. People often ask, well, not often ask, we get hit with that question about, what's the purpose? And I always say, because we're just trying to keep an hour and a half so the families can forget about life for an hour and a half and just have fun.
Mhm.
Just do the best we can for an hour and a half so they can just forget about the things that go on in life and they can just experience some really quality good entertainment. But to take it to Iraq is just mind blowing. Just mind blowing.
Yeah, Iraq was something, Kuwait was fun, and Qatar was its own thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had been deployed to Qatar before, so it
Yeah.
wasn't anything new to me.
Yeah.
And but we did have to do a combat drop off to Afghanistan
Oh,
because they were dropping off troops there. So they did the combat drop off with the aircraft.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
didn't even barely slow down. They jump out the back.
Yeah.
Um, and they shut all the windows because they can't let you know that they're there.
Yeah.
And we dropped a whole bunch of people off um, as we were leaving the desert. And we told Mr. Jones and said, can we go to Afghanistan?
Oh,
When we go
yeah.
back, when we go to for Christmas, can we go to Afghanistan? Because you're going to go back to the desert for Christmas. And we
So,
did.
okay, so that brings up my next question is, so typically the Christmas show was in Korea, historically with Thompson Blue. But you
Mhm.
guys did it in the desert.
We were in the desert. We were Christmas Day. We were doing a show at Bagram.
How was that show? How'd that go?
It was amazing. I look back at that because you go, it, what's hard for when I get emotional, what's hard for me is that the times that I was in the desert and when I went to Bagram, the year prior when I was released to go to worldwide, I was actually when I was deployed to the mortuary at Dover. And
Yeah.
so I was taking care of the fallen that were coming from the same places that I was performing at.
Yeah.
So it had a different significance for me going to those locations and seeing names on the walls that I remember
Yeah.
for different reasons.
Mm.
Um, so to be able to perform at Bagram was something else to hear the helicopters and
Yeah.
uh, medevac and just know I knew what was going on to a different extent. And the hospitality of them giving us space to sleep there with whatever they had. We didn't have blankets.
Mm.
Um, because they didn't have any. Everything was at the hospital. So we slept in they were basically made out of was it particle board, little
Yeah.
huts,
Yeah.
and barely any heat in them. So we bundled everything you had with you on your body to sleep in that. And I have a picture of us all bundled up, my M16 was my Christmas tree that year.
Yeah.
And my parents had sent presents for me for Christmas and I opened them at Bagram.
So did you so that makes I could talk about this stuff for days. So did you have to carry a weapon with you through the whole Mid East?
We did.
You were issued before you were issued when you got there and you kept it with you the whole time.
Yes. Mm,
Wow.
yep. Because it was still quite dangerous where we were at.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Bagram was dangerous, it was big. And then when we were so we only needed it in Bagram and we needed it in Iraq because we were there again.
Mhm.
But when we left Baghdad, we were in a Rhino vehicle and helmets and gear and everything to ride through the city. So we still had escorts and stuff like that to go there.
Did you guys have to go through training, M16? Did everybody have to go through
Yeah.
M16 training before you got
Yep.
deployed?
We
Wow.
did it at Dover. We did that M16 training. We did it at Dover. Can't remember if we did that at Dover or not. We did it at some point before we deployed.
Mhm.
It was requalified.
Yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
That's. I mean, I know plenty of tours have gone over to the desert. Post Desert Storm, Desert Shield. I mean, 93 when I toured, so 2 years after Desert Storm.
Mhm.
Um, so in '95, I got deployed back to Kobar, and Roy Mills, who was our drummer on the '93 tour, him and I started kind of a country rock band there at Kobar at the Towers, and they asked us. The commander was very, very pro Thompson Blue. He said, "Whatever, Dave, whatever you want." I mean, we would go to Bahrain and just buy gear. Yeah, he would just
Wow.
petty cash. You need drums, whatever you need. I want a country band to play on Tuesdays and Thursdays here at Kobar, and probably I'll send you to Riyadh to do a show, that type of thing.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
anyways, so and you would never in a million years think that you could do this now. We drove a Blue Goose bus from Kobar to Riyadh. So there was five of us in the band, and we loaded a blue Air Force bus, drove it through the desert. We had to stop like every 20 miles to water in the radiator because it kept wanting to overheat. I got a great picture of it. Oh, but would you, I mean, can you imagine driving a fully emblazoned Air Force Blue Goose bus through Saudi Arabia in 1995?
No way.
What were we thinking? But then there wasn't, so post, right, shortly after Desert Storm, we were on the, Kuwait loved us, the Saudis loved us, they just loved us. So I guess we felt invincible, but you wouldn't even dream about doing something like that now. There's no way.
Oh, no way.
No way. No
No
way.
way.
Wow. So you get done with tour. Did you have any problems post tour? Any tour PTSD, anything like that?
Yeah, I hit the
That
wall.
you want to talk about? Let me just add that you want to talk about.
Yeah, I hit the wall pretty hard. I'm not gonna
Okay.
lie.
How soon
Yeah.
after?
Um, Probably within a few weeks
Oh, okay.
because when I came back, there's so much that changes about you.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, as a person. And
Yeah.
so you make different decisions when you return from tour based on, how you're doing at that time. And so I was I'll go back to school. I can go back to my master's degree, or I can do something else. Um, and I wanted to get another job, and because I didn't have a job and I was unemployed. I had just been employed for a year, a little over a year, and went back to reserve, same reserve unit, and so I was looking for like more in my life at that point because I said I have to keep doing more because that the adrenaline from tour. I said
Yeah.
I can't stop that moving forward. So when it stopped, that was hard.
Yeah.
And so when I got back to trying to get a job and it was hard to find work and like the economy was terrible and where I was living in Oregon was terrible. Sorry, my cat got fur.
All
My
good.
goodness,
All good. I totally understand.
really. Um, but so I couldn't find really meaningful work. I was working for a temp agency and trying to make way with, and I had a music degree.
That was my question. You couldn't find, there was nothing available teaching wise or anything like that?
Well, Oregon required you to have your master's degree to teach.
Hmm.
And
Oh,
so, yeah, so that was, I mean, I was working towards that still, and I had and took my teaching exams and things like that, and was going to take the other courses to try to finish, go back into the master's program and get accepted into it because you had to be accepted into it. You couldn't just get into it.
yeah.
And I wasn't able to get accepted to it. So I was like, well, I got to do something else because I'm not going to teach. And so I applied for a master's program out of Drexel University and so for arts administration, and I got selected for that. So I was going to start my master's degree there. So I could have went ahead and moved to Philadelphia at that point and started a whole new life because I was able to do that. And I wasn't married, didn't have any children, didn't have a job, but like, no, I think I want to still stay in the area. I still had family in the area and I had that support system there and was still going to reserves. And when I went to reserves the one weekend, I had a group commander fully supportive of everything I was ever doing. And he said, "Hey, I got a question for you. Ever want to be an MTI?"
I wanted to get into that. I'm glad you,
Yeah. So like an MTI, and you're like a training instructor. He says, "Yeah." So you know, is that possible? And he says, "Oh yeah, as a reservist, we have a reserve unit in Lackland.
now
We
why
do
did
it."
he ask you this? What brought that up to him? Why do you think about that? Because you were looking for
But
work or what?
he got, well, weird. So he went ahead and he got selected to move down here for his job.
Yeah.
I think it was something like that. He had to come down here and he knew the commander. And the commander says, "Well, Lackland's having some problems right now." It was in 2012,
Yeah.
2011,
Yeah.
um, or 2012 when they were starting to have that whole shift.
Yep.
And he said, "You know any good people up at your base?" He says, "Actually, I do."
Yeah.
And I had just sang at an event and he says, I think you should apply for it. And I said, I'll think about it. Kid you not, the next day I get a phone call from Lackland. "So when are you coming down for an interview?"
What? Who was that? Who called you?
The unit down here.
Just the unit, just So he put a bug in their ear.
He did.
Wow.
He said, might be a good candidate for you for an MTI. So I talked to my unit and I said, well, I need a permissive TDY to go down to interview. If I make it, I'm going to end up staying down there. And they said, okay, whatever you'd like to do. And I said, man, I love my services unit. They were awesome.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to see them go. I'm like, well, I can always come back, right? And I said, yeah, you can come back. Cool. So I went down to apply to be an MTI and I got selected. So I was like, oh,
What was the application? Not. I mean, we're kind
yeah,
of digressing a little bit. What was that application? What was that process like for that?
that you had to take a picture of how you looked in your uniform. So obviously that was easy.
Yeah.
And then you had to fill out your resume about what you did in your career. So that was easy. I'm like,
Mhm.
I was just doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
This is what I've been, I was in services. I had a wide breadth career with that, seeing a lot of stuff around the, service career field and what other services were doing. And you just had to be professional and you to pass their interview process, which was, lengthy, and they let you go see the job for the day, and you got to see them yell at some trainees, and you're like, that part not so happy about, but I kind of knew that
Yeah. You know
I
the
can handle
drill. No pun intended.
I
Yeah.
can handle it, And they said, okay, so we'll have you come down then. You'll come down here, and then you're going to go through school, back to tech school, which was really hard. That was the hardest tech school I've ever been through. And because they teach you how to teach.
Hmm.
It's completely different than regular teaching.
Yeah. No kidding.
And then you have a squadron that has to pick you up and take you in for you to graduate a flight for you to graduate the program.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I had to pass, I had to take a whole flight through from beginning to end in order to graduate.
Wow. How
Yeah.
did that go? Must be went well.
I mean, it went okay. It's, I was not awesome. I like
Well,
finally found something I
what
wasn't
did,
awesome at.
I mean, the experience must have been awesome. Did you enjoy that job?
I enjoyed being in the mentorship role with the airmen. I'm
Yeah.
going to be specific on that. The
Yeah.
yelling part I could do without that. I didn't yell as much as other instructors did. I only did in the very beginning when they absolutely needed, a little pick me up.
Yeah.
But they learned pretty quick that I didn't need to yell at a time more for them to get something done.
Right.
But I had a lot of knowledge for them that they wouldn't get anywhere else. So they were surprised to find out that I was a reservist. Because a lot of them had no clue that reservists did that as a job, that was capable of them going to do other things in the reserves. They didn't know what was really in their job fields or career fields because some are open, I call it open opportunity when they sign the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
open opportunity. Don't be mad at what you got
Yeah.
because you didn't sign for something specific.
Right.
Don't be mad about that. And I would talk through, different scenarios with them about what they would be up against, where they're going for tech school and give them study skills. Sometimes I was their mom
Yeah.
and their dad,
Yeah.
and I had to give them tough love, life lessons about things that were going on back home at their place, whether it was your mom is not going to pay you back. Oh no, she'll pay you back. She's not going to pay you back. Why? She's not going to pay you back. You need your own bank account. So it's like they didn't get it. I'm like, life skill. They're not going to pay you back. You know, like so you have to teach them things that you would thought that they would have been taught, but you're like, I'm gonna finish the job that they didn't get done.
Yeah.
I gotta finish raising these airmen.
Yeah.
I gotta get them started on the right foot.
How
So
many years did
like
you do this?
6 years.
6 years.
Mhm.
Were you burned out by the time you got to U6?
I was already in E6.
Oh no, were you burned out by the time you got to your 6 years?
Yes, because I did 3 years as a line instructor, so that was just straight flights
Yeah.
every 8 weeks.
Yep.
And then I did 2 years or almost 2 years as they called it Airman's Week, which they don't have anymore. It was like the final week, and then it was like all mentorship that week. And then I did academics in there. So I taught the academic courses for the training, and then I was for the reserves. I went back and took care of the student flights for the reserves. So I got them ready to go my last year in service.
When you were a services troop,
Hmm.
what was your because just so you know, I was a services troop for my first 4 years
Hey,
before I went to jet engines. and I worked in lodging,
Uh-huh.
dormitory,
Hmm.
CDMO, mortuary affairs, which now I understand why you were at Dover. Um,
Hmm.
so we were both services troops.
Yeah,
I just thought I'd throw that in there. Wasn't for very long, but I did it for a while.
that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought? And just a quick story on that one was I went to tech school for ground radio operator, which my recruiter totally lied to me about. Wasn't at all what he said it was. Day three in class, I was so angry about what I was going through. They came in, they said, "Hey, we've got too many people in this class. Does anybody want to try a different career field?" And I didn't even care what it was. They said pick five. So I went and picked five. I was like, "Sir, whatever this is, whatever." And I got services. So and I went straight to the senior NCO academy in Alabama and worked there at lodging and mobility
Yeah.
there. My first job. So
Wow.
so you got tour, you hit the wall. Um, Refresh my memory. Did you ever come back and work any more worldwide? Did you go help with staging after that?
I did when I was here as an instructor, I did.
Oh, okay.
I didn't work
I remember
staging.
you stopping by a few times.
Yeah, I would stop by when they were here. I was able to stop as long as I didn't have a flight. So I was able to, while they were, I helped with one of the things that they did down at the Riverwalk, one of the events there, and did an event over at the agency, and I came and helped a little bit at the Worldwide when I could. So yeah, I did one that was still active.
Nice, nice. Well, we always like to help out. That's just our instinct. That's just who we are.
It's like, oh, the bus is here. Bye. You know,
Yeah, yeah, gotta go.
I, I gotta go get work done.
Yeah. So, tell me about how tour changed you. What was some of the biggest impacts once you got off the road and got back to normalcy?
I think it showed me more about what I was capable of doing. And
Ah,
because I think that you get in a rut and you're in your safe place with what you
mhm,
can actually do.
mhm.
And then you don't really push the boundary to say, I can do more, I can do more. Or I can look at other opportunities that are out there because I've been so super focused for 10 years.
Yeah,
And I got a degree out of that. Even Mr. Edwards had asked me, he says, was it worth it? Was your degree worth it? It was.
oh
It
yeah,
gave me that whole 10 year. I mean, you look at your life being different phases or seasons. I needed that. I needed to see how far I could push myself to be where I wanted to be.
right.
Um, because that put me into my another phase of my life. And I said, I have to do what I need to do in the reserves to, finish out and to retire. Um, Out of service, I have to finish out my 20 because, I'm in that grandfathered program or was in that grandfathered program to do
Mhm.
that. And that I need to do something else. I need to go work and be a civilian, which is totally weird.
Yeah, and scary at first.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, I had never owned a house. I built a house here,
Mhm.
and it was like I'm permanent,
Yeah,
which was the oddest feeling is having permanency because I had been living out of a suitcase.
yeah, yeah. That's a huge change.
Yeah.
Did you, I, did you, your surroundings, for example, I hate cords that are out of place that aren't secured and safe. I can't, I'm pre-tour. I was the most unorganized guy ever existed. Post-tour, I mean, holy cow. I had to change everything. I mean, my wife even got on me. She says, "Why are you worried about, the hose out in the lawn not being coiled correctly?" Why stuff like that. Did you
Oh
go
yeah,
do any of that?
I did, and even my husband knows. He says, "I'll let you pack the car because I'm
Good,
not going to do it
good
right.
move, sir. Good move.
I'll let you pack the suitcases for our trip because I definitely won't do that right.
Yeah,
Because I'm going to have a list, and we're going to have everything on that list
yeah,
to make sure we don't forget anything because I'm not
right,
going to go back and get it. You miss it, we're not doing it. You know,
yeah.
and how you can pack more things in a day, to make sure you get to see things and take
Well,
advantage of seeing people.
he doesn't know that you could. Well, he does now that you could pack 10 days worth of stuff in a bag about that big.
Oh yeah, he figured it out real quick. He's like, wow, that's all you need? That's all I need.
All I need. All I need. Yep, yep. Yeah, I to this day, I look at duct tape and almost get nauseous.
Oh no.
Oh, it was bad. I I can honestly say the last show we did, which was at in Texas at Lackland at Arnold's, not Arnold's, but Bob Hope. And when I got off that set for the last time, they had no intentions of keeping any of the set pieces. We just went berserk. We went nuts.
Oh,
We went nuts. It was because they told us they weren't going to keep any of the set pieces for anything, and we had a little bit of a slight destruction party.
no.
But yeah. So, but yeah, it's funny. Everybody's different after tours. Some folks are just so relieved. I mean, I've told countless people it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, let alone my military career. It was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Absolutely. I honestly I think about that because I could have stopped my career at that point because I was at my last year of enlistment
Mhm.
and I could have walked away at that point.
Yeah,
And that would have been it.
yeah,
And I probably would have been okay.
I
You know,
would
I
have
would have
been.
made, yeah, I probably would have been okay, but it was hard. It's like but because I wanted to tour again after that.
Mhm.
And I did apply again, but my commander said no.
So, no, yeah,
Yeah, he said, I can't release you from MTI duty to go on tour. So
yeah.
it was what it was.
Yeah. Well, I gotta tell you, this has been wonderful. I I I mean, I had no idea about so much of this stuff. Obviously, that's why I have people on here. So I learned so much more about people. And what a great story, Katie. What a great story.
Thanks,
Just
Dave.
it's I don't know. There's we talk to priors and it all generally has the same core stories, staging, tour, whatnot. And but once we get off a tour, our life has changed so much.
Mhm.
And we still want to keep in contact with our prior friends. Doesn't matter if it was a tour or tour before you or tour after you, because we all know you can have my kidney, I can have your kidney.
Absolutely.
It's just who we are. And I know I miss it terribly. I'm sure you miss it terribly. And we move on with life. And I just love these stories. I want to keep this going so I can talk to folks like you and everybody else I've talked to prior to having you on. And it's just been a joy. So
And
I
I honestly love that you're doing this because my husband and I have talked about it. He says, I hope somebody's writing these stories down. I hope somebody's going through and doing that. I'm like, I hope so. I mean, I try to stay connected to my team
yeah,
and we do reconnect every now and then, little bits and pieces of us. We're like, hey, what are they doing now? What are they doing? So we kind of keep track of everybody,
that's
but
good.
it's not the same when we're like, we need to get back together again because we need to sit together and have, share bread again.
Yep,
Because
I
our world,
agree.
yeah, we do.
I need
We
to come
have to.
down to Lackland. I haven't been down there in a long time.
Come on down.
Come on down. I got so many friends down there. I got so many friends down there. I need to come down.
Yeah.
It was my second home for, many, many chunks of months at a time. So, all right, kiddo. Well, I'm gonna let you go. Again, thank you so much,
Of
Katie.
course.
I really, 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 really enjoyed this. This was very nice to talk to you.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Katie. Much
Yeah,
love to you.
thank you.
Tell everybody at your house I said hi. Tell the cats I said hi.
I will do
What,
that.
what, what are all the cats' names?
I have Fifi, Gracie, Murphy, and Tank.
Man.
Yeah.
So we have two cats. I know I'm digressing here on the goodbyes, but two cats. I always wanted a cat named Mandu.
Oh, that would be cool.
We got a cat named Mandu. We got cat Mandu. And just complete coincidence. It was not planned like this. I swear it was not planned like this. My wife wanted another kitten, so we got another cat. I said, okay, but I get to name this one too. The deal is if we get our pet, I get to name it. She said that was fine. We got another kitten. We named it Lorian, Lorian. So I didn't think about Mandalorian. It never dawned on me. It's not Mandalorian. It's Mandu and Lorian. But I never. Somebody said to me, "Oh, you big Star Wars fan?" I'm like, "Why? I am, but why?" And I was like, "Oh crap." So, anyways, that's my cat story for the day. All right, dear. Well, much love to you again. Thank you so much, and this video will go out shortly.
Yeah, much love to you as well. Send love around to the family and everybody you've catch up with. And I would love to chat again sometime.
Oh well, oh,
Hit the breeze.
I've got more plans, dear.
Yay.
More plans. Yes, yes.
That'll
Things
be
are
fun.
put, people are sending me ideas. I'm putting stuff down in notes. So, oh, there's gonna be some more stuff.
I love it.
All right, Katie. Thank you
Thank
again.
you.
All right, dear. Take care.
You too.
All right. Bye
Bye.
bye.